Okay, hello and welcome to the video. My name is Wade Smith, and I am a black belt candidate in Ishinru Karate, or at least I was the last time I trained full time. And the only reason I didn't pass the black belt test is, honest to God, I couldn't memorize about the last 10% of Sun Tzu Kata. Is the only reason I kept failing the black belt test. I was actually fighting at about third or fourth degree black belt skill level in terms of fighting by the time I was testing for black belt. Because regardless of what they tell you in traditional martial arts, you are required to memorize the kata to get the next promotion, no matter how good you already are at fighting. All right. Well, what was my black belt test? It took about 6 months worth of testing to go through the black belt testing. Um, Initially, when I started getting really good enough to be a black belt, sensei would put me against one person, and I had no weapon, and my opponent had one of these. This is called an eskrima stick, sometimes spelled with a K, sometimes spelled with a C. By the way, if you see someone holding it like this with the butt end of it sticking out like that, they don't know what they're doing. All right. They got a bunch of supposed Eskrima masters and grandmasters teaching people to fight with a stick. There's no good reason to choke up on a stick. It actually makes it easier to disarm because then it gives me something else to grab. First of all, so stop that. And secondly, it reduces the max range of the weapon when you choke up on a stick. So anytime you see an Eskrima fighter fighting with this stick, with an end sticking out like this, they don't know what they're doing. They're stupid. All right. So the correct way to hold an eskrima stick is like this, with the butt of the stick flush with your hand. All right. It maximizes the range and it gives your opponent less to grab onto to try to disarm it. Anyway, at some point when I was a black belt candidate, since they started giving my opponents Okinawan bows or eskrima sticks in one-on-one sparring, and I had no weapon, and he would tell them to try to hit me as hard as they could, and they were trained to use the thing correctly, and my job was to disarm them without getting hit, and I could disarm everybody in the dojo, including the second degree black belts, without getting hit. And so then at some point he started putting two brown and black belt or second degree black belts attacking me with eskrima sticks, both of them, and I had no weapon, and I had to disarm them, and I could do it. I could disarm two people attacking me with eskrima sticks, two brown or black belt fighters, and I'm talking about real brown or black belts. They were in perfect condition because we used to do 200 push-ups per day and stuff like that in a 2-hour session, because we had 2 hours of Okinawan karate and 1 hour of cardio kickboxing, because me and my sister were going to about 3 hours a night of karate and kickboxing at the time. And so we were training harder than professional fighters. And the other black, brown, and black belts could not hit me with the screamer sticks, even when it was 2-on-1, and they were not a turkey sandwich. One of them was an ex-Marine with 8-year veteran of the Marine Corps and an active police officer at the local police office and in perfect condition. And he was about 38 years old at the time, whereas I was 20. But still, a second degree black belt heavyweight. I was a 185-pound middleweight at the time, and the other second degree black belt in the dojo was a 155-pound lightweight who was actually 1 year younger than me. And so since they would put me as a middleweight against a lightweight and a heavyweight attacking me simultaneously with the screamer sticks, and I could disarm them, and I still failed the black belt test because I couldn't memorize the kata. So I never got my black belt. But you think UFC is fighting? You ought to see what it takes to beat two second degree black belts attacking you with this right here, because I can do it, and I don't find Israel Adesanya to be that impressive of a fighter at all. The one that I thought was impressive was Kamaru Usman, because he used a lot of straight punches and straight kicks instead of roundhouse punches and roundhouse kicks. Israel Adesanya ought to study from his friend Kamaru Usman, because throwing roundhouse kicks is about the worst thing you can do in a no rules fight. It is too easy to block or evade or parry or pin a roundhouse kick or counter a roundhouse kick with a straight kick, which I mentioned in that post on Quora, because somebody on Quora, this is what sparked this is someone on Quora thinks Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is all that. I can go to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu dojo right down the street, which is owned by the first cousin of Royce Gracie, and I can beat his third-degree black belt professional fighters one-handed. And I'm 20 years out of practice. But I've been down there before and done it and proved it to them. And they're professional fighters with over 20 wins. So don't tell me that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is all that. All they did is took Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and stuck the Gracie name on it, to be honest to God with you. And they took a watered down and inferior version of Japanese Jiu-Jitsu and stuck the Gracie name on it, which is why I can still beat them. All right, that's the end of the video. I'm going to post this on Quora so you can see that this is a, I think, 28-inch Eskrima stick. And I have another one. I have the pair right over there. And I'm not lying, since I used to give 2 of these to the second-degree black belts, 1 to each of them, and tell them to attack me from opposite angles or a 90-degree angle from one another, 2 of them at a time, and I could disarm both of them and not get hit. So I'm getting a little too old to fight, but at 44 years old. But if you gave me a 20-year-old who really wanted somebody to train them how to fight for real and win the UFC, I guarantee you, if you gave me 6 months to a year, I could train any 20-year-old that was in good shape and good health to win the UFC. Because those guys on there don't actually know very much about fighting.